Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Welcome to 55th voyage of Backpackers Toastmasters Club. Toastmasters is a non-profit education organization span across approximately 150 countries with more than 15,000 clubs. And as Backpackers Toastmasters Club is a unique club where members who love traveling join together, and we have formed this club a year before. And with that, I'd like to read the club mission of Toastmasters Club. We provide a positive and supportive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Any Toastmasters meeting will have 3 different sections: prepared speech section, impromptu speaking section, and evaluation section. But today we have a special education section. You will get to witness it soon. Before that, I'd like to hear a few comments from our guests who have joined for today's meeting. I can see Sarang. Hi, Sarang. Good evening. You can quickly tell about how you got to
Yeah, good evening.
Hi, Sarang. You can quickly tell about how you got to know the meeting, and is this your first Toastmasters meeting or again?
No, I was just I wanted to know more about today's theme, so I was just browsing, so I got across this and thought I should join the meeting, check it out.
Thank you.
And
Sarang.
this is not my first Toastmasters meeting.
So you are already a Toastmaster. I hope.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarang. Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
Have Cyril. Hi, Cyril. Cyril Paul.
Hi, good afternoon, or good evening, rather.
Okay. With the voice, I remember now. I pointed out. Hope you're doing good.
It's always a pleasure to come back to Backpackers Toastmasters Club. And today's session by FURSEY was like a must-attend session. So there was no way I would I would skip this.
Thanks for joining, Cyril. We have Anjali. Hi, Anjali.
Good evening, everyone. Hello.
Hello, yeah. Good evening, Anjali.
Yeah, I came to know about the session from Yedu sir, and really wanted to be a part of it.
Thanks for joining, Anjali.
Thank you.
We have Tia Moon. Hi, Tia. Good evening.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm just jumping in. I'm anxious to see and meet and listen to FURSEY. Hope y'all having a good evening.
Yes. Hope you'll have a better evening too.
I am fantastic. Thank you.
Gustavo.
Hello. Good afternoon. I'm Gustavo from Future Champion Advanced Toastmasters Club, the same club as FURSEY, and I'm his mentee. I'm here to learn from him and to have this special evening together with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Gustavo, for joining. We have Jayanti. Hi, Jayanti. Good evening.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. I want to listen to FURSEY and get his inputs on ISC. Yeah, I'm here to listen to him and enjoy the session. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thanks for joining, Jayanti. We have Bhushan. Hi, Bhushan. Good evening.
Very good evening. Very good evening.
Thanks for joining. Akbar. Hi, Akbar. Good evening. Good. Okay, we have all the fans of FURSEY assembled to witness the champion speaker himself. Let's not make them wait further. Before I introduce FURSEY, I would like to capture this wonderful, wonderful moment. Let's all do not hesitate. Please turn on your video as our VPPR would be clicking a picture of this moment, and we can pose, or you can have your coffee mug or water bottle, anything nearby you to hold it for a toast. Along with that, it would make more special if we can use the heart reaction emoji which we have at the bottom of our screen. If you guys are traveling, you can just give a thumbs up. Prathamesh, let know once it is done.
Thank you. Done.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you. So, I'd also request everyone to keep your audio on mute until otherwise you have any questions. You can paste it in chat. Okay, now the man of the moment. He was one of the past area director in District 25, a semi-finalist in World Championship of Public Speaking 2022, lifelong educator and a facilitator, currently co-principal and theatre director at Hangzhou International School. With a huge round of virtual applause, let's welcome Toastmaster FURSEY. Over to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. This is an awesome place to be. It's so cool that all the people came to hear me. And this is why I like to be here. I mean, not for the people to listen to me, but because if people are here to hear me, then I know this is one place my mother-in-law won't be, because she never goes anywhere just to hear me. All right, Joe, you're not supposed to laugh at that, Joe. Your mother-in-law is probably somewhere in the vicinity. You're not supposed to laugh at that. I'm just saying. You gotta keep a straight face. All right, fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Let's talk about the contest. What's it gonna take to win the contest? Practice, 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 and last but not least, practice. That's what it takes. That's what it takes. It takes that much practice. People never believe us that have accomplished it. It's like, you got to practice. You got to practice three, 4 times a day, not a week, a day, drilling it, getting it down to where it's a real. I mean, if you're still trying to go, can I have my notes up there when I go to district? No, not a district content. You got to have it down. It has to be part of your rhythm. It has to be part of your heart. It has to be so close to you that you can improvise and ad-lib. Gustavo knows. Yesterday, in the middle of my speech, I improvised something. Last night, I did my speech for another club. I improvised. And I reacted to somebody in my audience in the middle of my ISC speech. It has to be that fresh. It has to be that authentic. It has to be something so ingrained in you that you don't have to think about it, to the degree that you can improvise with somebody. Be ready for anything. Be ready for anything. You see this? This is not the way you're supposed to dress for this kind of occasion. What happened? I got stuck at work and I couldn't get home to do this presentation. I had to get work done and the boss was down the hallway. So you got to be ready for work. You got to be ready for these kinds of things. Now, luckily, at work, I'm ready for anything. I've always got an extra set of clothing. I got my jacket. It's good to go. Now, the reason why I didn't wear the jacket ahead of time is because I didn't want Joe to go, dude, those colors clash, man. That's a blue background and a brown jacket and an orange shirt. What is wrong with you? So I knew Joe was going to get on me, right? So Heshem was going, yeah, he will. Okay, so I had to make sure that you knew this was an emergency. Now I've got a white shirt that I could put on, but I was like, I kind of need that for an emergency. You know what I'm saying? So I figured Joe was going to be all right. Anybody who's got a great haircut like that, he's going to be all right with what I got on. All right, let's go ahead. People are going, why did I do this on a Sunday? This guy's a goober talking about dress code. It's true, though. You got to be ready. Somebody spills something on you, it's not your fault, but it is your problem. They mess up with the microphone. What are you going to do? They have different lighting. What are you going to do? You have to be ready for anything. When I prepared students for contests, not for this contest, but when I prepared students for our play, our theatrical contest, when I prepared students for a Shakespeare festival in New York, when I prepare them for auditions at Yale University, you have to prepare them for everything, that nothing can shake you. So that's the first lesson. Let's go ahead and move on, all right? So what okay, so you got to be ready for anything, including slides that pop up in the middle of your face. Isn't that kind of cool, though? There's like a dome. There's like a dome on the slide. So you have to be ready for anything. The man in the arena. Now, the reason why I titled it The Man in the Arena is because there are going to be so many people who take shots at you. Don't let it faze you. When you go out there and you give your speech, it's from the heart. When you go out there and you give your speech, it is from the heart and it's to their heart. That's why we give the speech. We don't give the speech for us to talk. We give the speech for us to speak. Not small talk, big speak. And it's to their hearts. And it's appropriate that we're going to talk about this because it's the year of the tiger. So what does your tiger look like? What is the roar inside your heart? What is the roar inside your heart? Now, I have put this in the chat, so don't try to look at this. Don't try to read this, all right? You can find it anywhere. It's from Theodore Roosevelt. I know some of you are looking at it, and right now, 25 people looking real Chinesey on the screen. Don't try to read it right now. It's way too small. I know that. I know it. You're like, FURSY, don't you know anything about slides? It's not supposed to look that small. I know, but I'll refer back to this in just a little bit. But if you'll excuse me for just one moment, I'm going to read it to you. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena. Sorry, I did not get rid of that slide. I beg your pardon. In the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcomings, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. What this boils down to is, I have the greatest respect for the people who go into competition. There are those of us who will compete knowing full well that the odds of being successful are really quite small. That's okay. You go in there and you do battle, and it is a battle. It is a battle. Your soul will be tortured. In these speeches, you are writing about what is closest to your heart. And there's going to be all these people out there. Well, you know, you could have done this better. You could have done faster. You could have made it smaller. Shut them out. You take what you need to get better. You take the critique. You use it to get better. But do not let the critics take you down. Do not let the critics take you down. You fight, you fight, you fight. That is the heart of the tiger. And this is the year of the tiger. This is your year. You must find your roar. I will refer back to this from time to time. Ultimately, you have to find your tiger. And when you get that tiger, grab it by the tail. Grab it by the tail, right there. I know you're wondering, Joe, is that a real tiger? Yes, it is. I have never run so fast in my life as when I was doing that picture. Because I'm sitting there trying to tell the tiger, don't worry, tiger, it's just pantomime. And he's like, no, I'm still going to eat you. Anyway, so that's the tiger. Part of the quote that I just shared, it is not the critic who counts, nor the man who points out how strong man stumbles. Don't listen to the critics, but you got to know what it is that the critics are looking at. Have you ever seen this before? Who has seen this before? Go ahead. Rohit, have you seen this before? Mary has seen this before. Rohit, you've never seen this? Come on, man. I know you've seen it. Mary, where have you seen this before?
Page 3.
Page 3, baby, page 3. I know so many people don't even know there is a page 3. This is page 3 of the evaluations from TI International, Toastmasters International. On page 3, you will see the detailed descriptors for each of the areas that make up a good speech. Look at it very carefully. I know this is not what the judges are looking at to evaluate. Don't worry about that. What it is are very detailed, specific things for you to gauge yourself on. Let's take a look at this. This is for gestures. Oh, I'll make that a little bit bigger. This is for gestures. Take a look at number 1. Uses very distracting gestures or no gestures. But take a look at number 5. What is it going to take to be number 5? Fully integrates physical gestures with content. Fully integrates gestures with content. Here's the deal. Most of us do speeches like this. Our hands are at the, hang on, let me point this down so I can see it. Don't worry, Joe, I got pants on. So the thing is, a lot of us do gestures that are right here. I am saying something important. Really? This is important? Your hands up like this is important? This says it's important? This says you got nothing. Palms up. You have nothing. So let's do more than palms up. Let's do more than palms up. Realize that when we do gestures, we can bring the audience into us, whether it's live or on camera. We can have gestures that go to the side of us. Look where my hands are. They're to the side of my body, not in front. They're to the side, 2 sides. If I keep doing this, it's kind of like dancing, right, Joe? Okay, so now you know why Joe's wife is like, oh my gosh, I'm never taking that man anywhere. So here's the deal, right, Dinker? Yes, Dinker. So here's the deal. You can have your hands to different sides. You can have your hands to the front, to the side, and you can have your hands behind you. This gives you depth. This gives you depth. Look how much my body has increased just from the fact that I create space that is behind me. My presence is so much more. Does this make sense, Anjali? So be able to use the back behind you. You could talk about things that were in your past, and now you're moving forward in your future. You also have space above your head. Push down, push up, right? Abhilash, this is dancing. Woo, woo. No, that's not what we're going to do here. That's not what this is about, right? Prathamesh, right? Prathamesh? Yeah. We've seen you dancing too, man. All right, so here's the deal. You can have hands that go in all different directions, but you also have hands that are asymmetrical. Most times when we gesture, our hands are together. They don't have to be that way. You can have one hand doing one thing and another hand doing another. Kind of like the best pickpockets. Okay, so here's the deal. You can have your hand talking about an abstract element in your speech, while the other hand shows how you're thinking and processing. Does this make sense, Abhilash? You can even point the values that my father gave me, the heart that my mother gave me. We often talk about very abstract concepts. How is the audience supposed to grab onto that concept? You create a gesture. And every time you say that concept, you do the gesture. Again and again. It's repeated. We repeat the concept, we might as well repeat the gesture. Rohit, does this make sense? Thumbs up. Thumbs up from everyone if you get this. Sonali, Reina, yes? Excellent. So that's part of gestures. Now let's go a little bit further. Let's go on to the next one because I know I only got 35 minutes. Passion. Your speech must have passion. How do you get passion in a speech? Vocal variety. Everybody always wonders, I don't get it. Why do we have to have vocal variety? To show passion. It's called having pitch variety. Let's talk about this. Look at number 5. Uses the tools of tone, speed, and volume to perfection. Perfection. Oftentimes when people look at vocal variety, they simply say, well, FURSY, you had vocal variety. It's binary. It's like, yeah, you got it. No, you don't. It's much more than that. Where did you show vocal variety? So not only do we have volume and quiet, yes, everybody tells you to be loud. They never tell you to be quiet. Unless you're Rohit's mother, who's always telling us to be quiet. So we have that. We have pitch, we have pitch, we have pitch, we have pitch. Notice I said pitch, Joe, not the other word with the B, all right? Just, we're not going into taboo subject. All right, so we have pausing. See what I just did there? We have pausing and more pausing. We use pausing to bring attention to a word, either before the pause or after the pause. Let me say that again. We bring pausing into our speech to bring attention to the word. The pausing can either happen before the word or after the word. Your choice. So for example, you can bring pausing to the attention of your audience. Yes, right before the word attention. Or you can bring pausing to the attention of your audience. You could put it before or after, play with it, see what works. It's a very easy way to do it. Oh, and by the way, if you're ever in a point like table topics where you completely don't know what to say and you're like, oh, you have a pause. It's a beautiful moment if you take it. If you don't take it, then you're just sitting there going, oh. But if you do take it and you think of something, then you make it sound like you meant to pause. Make sense? You make it sound like you meant to do that. And it comes out even stronger, even though it was a total mistake. Total mistake. You just smile like you know something they don't. Yeah? There you go. So this is how you use vocal variety to bring emphasis to your speech. You have a key word. Thank you, Green. You have a key word when you have vocal variety. One word that unlocks the meaning of each sentence. Each sentence only has one key word. That's all. One key word per sentence. Let's take the sentence, I love you. Yes, I love you. Abhilash, I love you. Now, here's the thing. Yes, yes, sir. Here's the thing, Abhilash. If I said it like this, I love you, then Abhilash, it doesn't quite sound like I love you, right? It sounds more like your mother-in-law. I was like, how much can I wail on a mother-in-law? Some of you are like muting me right now, going, oh, my mother-in-law's in the next room. So here's the headsets. Here's the deal. If I key one of those words, I love you, not Joe. Joe doesn't love you. I love you. Yes? Now let me change the meaning completely. I love you. You know those guys who are never emotionally present, and for the first time the guy says the L word, love. I love you. Sometimes things are most interesting when they are difficult. Take that note. Things are most interesting when they are difficult, and when something is difficult, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. That's what makes it authentic. Oh my gosh, this is so real, because he's having trouble saying it. Now, I know you've been rehearsing this speech 500 times, like FURSEY told you to. It's very easy to say, but see that? That's a pause. But if you take that moment before you say it, and you have a harder time saying it, looks incredibly authentic. It has to be. I know people are going, isn't that fake? You rehearse something for 500 times and try to make it real, okay? My ISC speech, I talked about my divorce. Oh my gosh. You don't think that's hard to talk about your divorce in front of the entire population of the world? It's hard. But I work through it, and then you put that pause there and you say it, makes it come to fruition. I love you. Not Joe, I love you. Yeah, so depending on the word that you key, depends on the meaning, and that's where your passion comes through. Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions? That was also part from the speech. The last one from the page 3, interest, the interest of the audience. Take a look at this. Fully engages audience with exemplary, well-constructed content. Listen, folks, just because you said it, just because you wrote it, doesn't mean it's well-constructed. You have to choose the right words. Here's an easy way to look at it. What kinds of literary devices do you want to use? These are just some of the basics. Think about this, a metaphor. Have you ever tried a metaphor? Now, I know some of you have tried a meta 3. Just kidding. That was really bad, wasn't it, Joe? That was bad. Look at it. Promise. This is like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. This is awful humor. Yes, a meta 3 is not as good as a metaphor. What are some examples of metaphor? Who's got an example? Who don't, right? Metaphor is when you compare two things without using the word like or as, right? Because the word as sounds too much like a taboo word you're not allowed to use. What? That's another joke. So what are some metaphors? Who's got one?
Drink like fish.
Well, that's not bad, except that because we use the word like, it immediately becomes a simile, right? Any other possible metaphors?
Life is a box of chocolate.
Life is a box of chocolates. Thank you, Grace. Life is a box of chocolates. Not life is like a box of chocolate. Life is a box of chocolates. By creating those images in our audience's mind, we enrich our text. We enrich our text. Take a look at the third one, repetition. Take a look at the third one, repetition. Take a look at the third one, repetition. You see what I did there? See what I did? I repeated it. So here's the deal. By using repetition, you drive it home to the audience. Now, don't just use it anytime you want. Use it at a key point. Use it at a key point. The second time you repeat it, you can slow it down. The second time you hit it, you can emphasize it. Yeah? Winston Churchill said, when you speak, have a point and don't be subtle about it. Drive it home like a pile driver. Yeah? Punch it home. Punch it home. That's the way Winston Churchill spoke. When he gave his famous speech, England is getting pounded, right? World War II, England is just getting pounded. And Winston Churchill, as their leader, says, never, ever, 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 ever give up. Did he need to repeat it? No. Did he want to repeat it to get his audience up off the ground? Yes. Remember, it's about your audience, not you. They didn't come to hear you talk. They really didn't. They didn't come to hear you talk. They came to be inspired. And if you're the one who's going to inspire them, great. They came to be inspired. You didn't come to hear me talk tonight. You came for something that you could use, right? You didn't come to hear my story. You came to hear something that you could use. And if my story helped convey it, then so be it. Personification, another easy one. This is when we give an inanimate object the qualities of a human being. I like spicy food, but spicy food doesn't like me. Yeah, I like spicy food, but spicy food don't like me. Spicy food doesn't care. Okay, moving forward. Rhythm. Gotta have some rhythm, baby. Gustavo, I've seen you dancing. You're gonna need this. So, sorry, Gustavo. Zing! There you go. Joe's like, I'm so glad he found someone else to pick on for that one. Look at the quote. Whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. Look at the rhythm there. Whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. Yeah? Use your words to create rhythm. So rhythm isn't just in the fact that I say the words in a rhythm. Rhythm is also that we create rhythm with our words. That's how it gets rich. Yeah? Yeah. A little bit of repetition. You can see the and. It's repetitive. You're using conjunctions, right? Use your conjunctions well. And, but, or, yeah? All of those help to enrich the speech as you write it. And then when you say it, you make sure to use your vocal variety to stress that, yeah? So if it's this and that, this and that, this or that, this or that, this or that. It's either me or your mother. Okay. But this, but da 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 da. Those are different kinds of conjunctions that mean different things. So we can pivot on those because they have meaning, yes? All right. Keep it moving because I know we're on a tight time. Your audience. You must always remember your audience. It's always about your audience. That this place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Your audience are those cold and timid souls. So what you want to do is have a universal truth. Yes, you're talking about a specific instance in your family, in your home, in your growing up, in your work, something you saw, a specific instance. But what you are doing, thank you, Yellow, is that you are extracting a universal truth out of it. A universal truth, something we all understand. You might be telling us about the time you went to the dentist and the pain that you had in your tooth. But not everyone has pain at the dentist, but everyone does have pain. Everyone does have fear. Yeah? So you find the universal truth. What's the universal truth? And from all my presentations around the world by Zoom, I'll tell you one universal truth. Mother-in-laws are great jokes. Yeah. Abhilash is going, yeah, I'm going to make a joke about mother-in-law. I wouldn't do that. Who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement. This is what we go for. This is what we go for. High achievement. We, when we speak, must know in our hearts that our job is to go there in the battle and give people something that makes their life better. Give them something that makes their life better. Here's a key thought, though. Whoops. No key thought. Here's the key thought. To do all this, you have to care. Because it's one thing that I've learned from all my audiences. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Your job as a speaker, not as a talker, your job as a speaker is to care about your audience and share your experience with them so that they can learn from this universal truth. And you help them from their pain. You ease their pain. You relieve their pain. You make them laugh so that they can laugh at their pain and make it go away. That's what we do. We are the ones in the arena. We do battle so that they don't have to. It's called catharsis. It's Greek. It's called catharsis. Greek, like yogurt, you know. Okay, no. So you pull the pain from them. They're able to release their pain because of your story, because of your own pain. You share it with them. I didn't know if I was going to have time. Looks like I've got time. So this is something I want you to think about. When you rehearse and you're trying to get your pitch variety and you're trying to find the right way to emphasize, this is my technique that nobody else talks about and nobody else believes me. Nobody believes me. I think Gustavo's starting to believe me and I think Mary believes me. But use music. Use music. Play music, not during your speech, but when you rehearse. You will find that you're going to start to find your rhythm and your tone just because of the music. When you find the right music to match that speech, then you play that music over and over and over and over again. So allow me to play this song for you. Can you hear it? I'm on my work computer, so I don't have my usual tunes. Thumbs up, good. I'm going to do this 2 times. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error. All right, that's one way. Now, what if I chose a completely different song? How would that change what happens? I see the red, thank you. Come on, song, play. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error. You use the music to find that rhythm. You use the music to find that tone. And then you play it over and over and over. When I went to the World Championships, I must have listened to that song 1,000, 2,000 times. Anytime I rehearsed it, it's in my head. Pretty soon, my speech started to take on a rhythm of its own. My last slide. Find your roar and enter the arena. It has to be from your heart. The roar is in your heart. This is the year of the tiger. You have to find your tiger. You have to find a tiger that is in your heart and share that with your audience and roar, and don't stop roaring until they receive it. The tiger roars to let everybody know he is present, not for himself, for them. He has a purpose in his roar. What's your purpose? Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Huge round of applause to Toastmaster.
Incredible.
For such a wonderful session. Let's unmute and give a round of applause. Let's keep the applause going as we unmute and do it. Thanks a lot, Toastmaster FURSEY, for such a wonderful session about you are the man in the arena. As somebody pinged in chat sometime before, we actually getting goosebumps hearing to the techniques, what you have mentioned, how we can practice for this international speech contest season. With that, I would like to know if anyone got any questions. This is a Q&A for some time. Anyone have questions can unmute and ask. No, are we getting anything? Okay.
Yes, I have a question, Toastmaster Abhitash. So basically, you had mentioned about using personification, and also does alliteration actually work? Alliteration and humor, if we have humor in the speech.
No, don't be funny. Do not be funny. Whatever you do, don't be fun. You're laughing. Don't be funny. Don't be funny. Don't let it go. If you funny, it's gonna give your audience gas, and you don't want an audience with gas. You know what I'm saying? Because once they have gas, only two things can happen. Both make sounds. Now we're really now we're really in taboo land. Yeah, humor is great. Humor is great. I'll tell you what, Heshma, I want you to ask me a question, okay, Heshma? Heshma, I want you to ask me this question. And the question is, what's the most important thing about comedy? Go ahead.
What's the most important thing about comedy?
Timing.
Okay. Timing. Okay.
It's all about timing. Yeah, comedy's great. Alliteration is also very good. Onomatopoeia. There's a ton of different expressions that you can use. Anything that you can do to enrich your language. Listen to songs. Songs have great, like I said, they got great rhythm. They look for rhyme. They look for meter. They look for punch. All of that. Absolutely. Alliteration. Yes, the repetition of certain words, the repetition of words at the beginning of the sentence.
Yes.
Yeah,
got it.
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Reshma. We will open on the question.
Next question.
Either put it in the chat box or you can unmute and ask. Feel free. We have another 5 minutes where you can pour in your questions. Don't miss this opportunity.
I see you in there. I know your questions. I mean, it's
There is
kind
a
of
question in chat box. Please talk a little about topic selection from Ahuja.
What's your message? It starts with what's your message. When you pick a topic, I mean, don't just pick a topic like, I think I'll pick mother-in-laws. You know, maybe mother-in-laws is your topic, you know. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Now, you have to find a topic. What's your message? What do you want to say to the audience? What do you want to say? What's your roar? What's in your heart? Because then you're going to be able to move yourself forward. Remember, if you advance with this speech, I had my club contest in February and the World Championships was in August, September. That's 6-7 months. You got to love it. You got to love it and want it and work it.
All right. Thank you.
You bet.
I have a question.
Hi, Mary. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. FURSEY, in case we have the emotional speech that we want to present to the audience, how much humor should we put in that speech?
Lots. Always have humor. I think, I forgot what the study was. There's a study of world championship speeches, and I think they make the audience laugh more than 7 times or 8 times, something like that. And that's probably a low number. It might actually be like 10 times. You have to make your audience laugh 10 times, and that's in a 5 to 7 minute speech. And within the first 2 minutes, you got to make them laugh several times. My speech when I went 2 years ago, I had to keep talking about my cat. That was my base of humor point. You know, how are you supposed to make divorce funny, right? I just talked about my cat, and that got people to laugh. You have to make people laugh because that's the way you get them to trust you, believe it or not. You're forming a bond. You're forming a bond with your audience. And when we can all bond over humor, then we know we're together.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question, Mary.
Go ahead. Right.
Yes. I had one question. How do we process to have a powerful ending with our message and all of a script?
You drive it home. You have to know that, like any good story, it has to increase in intensity. And at the very end, yes, you've reached the peak of intensity, but you have to have a moment in a story, denouement, yes, where you discuss what just happened. What did we just talk about? And then you have one last opportunity. So you're concluding what you talked about. You're concluding what you're talking about, but not just, so point A, point B, point C. No, you're saying this was my point. And then you give them one last little parting thought, one last little thought to think about. Don't start a whole new thing. Just one little point that puts it all in perspective. So when they walk away, they have something to think about.
Can you give an example of this?
you know, a lot of people, it's hard because you have to have a whole speech, right? You've got to talk about the whole speech. It's not just a matter of saying, so this happened to me. Now, what will you do? Right? You can't just say that, but it's like that. But I can't give an example because it doesn't make sense unless you have a whole speech. Okay, here's one. I do a speech about how you have to light the fire. Okay, I do a speech about how you have to light the fire. And the last phrase I might say is, now go out and light your own fire. Right? Or just now, when I finished mine, what was the last thing that I said? What was the very last thing that I said?
Find your roar.
Right. So I started talking about the roar and I mentioned it, and then I brought it back at the end with that last slide. That would be the closing. That would be the conclusion. That's probably the best one I can give you because you actually understand the rest of the speech. The rest of the speech, I didn't use it a lot, right? It was just that last little punch. Like I could have used that slide, the roar slide, earlier. But instead I used the tiger slides and I did the roar at the end.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. This is Cyril Paul.
Yes.
Just taking from the responses that you gave to the last maybe 3 or 4 questions, am I right in concluding that an ISC is a humorous speech with a social message? Or is it a social speech with humor sprinkled in? Those two tend to be, though similar, they're 2 different things.
It's the second. It's the second. A humor speech will have you laughing all the way through it. Right. All the way through it. A humorist, like when you listen to the humorist of Tall Tale speech, from beginning to end, they've got you rolling. And there might be a little bit of a point, but really it's there to entertain. The ISC speech can be about anything. Now you can do a speech without any humor at all. You can certainly do a speech without humor. But you got to ask yourself, what do people like? How do you really get to your audience? Now, you look at some of the greatest speakers in the world, Winston Churchill, you know, Abraham Lincoln, George, they didn't really have humor. So you could say, well, looks like it's just the Toastmasters ISC that requires humor. But if you listen to other good speakers in a contemporary time, they'll say things that bring an audience in. You have to find some way to bring your audience in because they don't have to listen to you. I hate to say that, but it's the truth. You don't have to listen to me. Half of you had your cameras off during this. So there was something else more entertaining than me, right? You had your phones out, you're cooking, you got your child. I don't know what you're doing behind the camera, but you're doing something else. So I didn't have you totally. With your audience, if you want to win, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a contest speech. You got to grip them. You got to pull them in.
Got it.
And you got to fight for it. No, I mean, you got to fight for it. If you want to get into this contest and you want to win, you don't take your eyes off me. If I really want your attention, I will take your attention. Does that make sense? That's the kind of mentality you got to have if you want to win at this contest.
Got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I have been listening to you intently for the past few minutes, and I just have to ask this. There is vocal variety, body language, hand gestures, expressions, etc., etc. Yes, these are important, but how important are theatrics? Because the way you are, because theatrics.
Okay.
Well,
the fact that you use that word means that you've already dismissed it. But let me ask you a question. Do you like listening to somebody who doesn't move his head or have any facial expression? Can you listen to that guy? No.
No.
So it's not theatrics. It's what you have to do. We live in an age of visuals. We live in an age of visuals. When you say theatrics, it makes it sound like, oh, these are extras. They're not real. It's not authentic.
Yes.
Who the hell wants to listen to somebody who doesn't move their face? Think about this. If I did the entire speech like this, just like this right here, or what if I did my speech where I sat down? Because let's face it, see all that? That's all theatrics. I made sure that you could see me and I was standing up. But if I did my speech where I was like this, looking down at you, it's awful, isn't it? This is an awful thing. Now, to me, it's straight on, but I'm looking down at you because I haven't considered where the camera is. If we really consider our audience, you have to ask yourself, what does the audience need to see? Now, I'm moving my hands because I'm doing a lesson and I'm trying to get you. Would I move my hands this much during a regular speech? Probably not. Like you're seeing me do this and do this and do that because I've compressed time. And Joe told me I only have 35 minutes. So I've compressed time for the lesson. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't move your hands, and if you don't match your hands with what you say, then you're going to lose your audience. Is there a science to how often you move your hands? Yes. Is there a genius and an art and a science to saying that here's my gesture, and then I can slowly bring it down? We live in a visual society where you are looking at your phone for hours on end. How are you going to give a speech that competes against that? How are you going to give a speech that competes against a guy who's like going, oh, she's cute? Does this make sense? You have to be honest with yourself. You can sit there and say, well, writing a speech is the finest artwork. Okay. Then be a speechwriter. But you notice the speechwriters often go unknown. They'll write for somebody else. All the great leaders, they have speechwriters. They have several speechwriters. They have several speechwriters. The great movies, the great TV shows, they have writers, writers and writers and writers. But they're writers and they don't want to give a speech. They don't want to be in front of the audience, and they don't know how to hold their audience's attention visually or vocally. So when we're giving a speech, we have to match both the writing of it and the visuals of it. So do you have to have a well-written speech? Yes. Do you have to present it well? Yes. Both.
All right. I get it. I get it.
Make sense? Okay.
It does. It does. It certainly does. Yeah. Thank you.
I know some of these lessons are kind of hard. You're like, oh my gosh, he's kind of like in my face. Yeah, but you could have gotten somebody else to do this presentation, but they'd be so boring.
Yeah, I'm almost inclined to ask, are you an artist?
I'm a theater teacher.
Yeah, I heard that.
I'm a
I
theater
heard
teacher.
that. Wonderful.
We're such a visual society. We are such a visual society. I'm not saying you keep your hands moving, but you do help your audience. You do help your audience by using your hands to change this picture. Yeah. Our audiences see you one time. Now, if you're going to do a professional speech where they, like when the President of the United States goes out and gives a speech, he gives them the speech ahead of time. I don't know if everybody knows that. He gives them the speech ahead of time. Everybody is already read it. The only thing he's doing is presenting it for the cameras. But we're not in that situation. So all those other people get a chance to read through it. We don't. We don't. 5 to 7 minutes is all you got. So when you're at your club meetings, how many of those speeches do you actually remember? Right? It's so hard to, there's so much information, and you're thinking about dinner, and you're thinking about your baby who's crying and he pooped, and there's so much to think about in life. Boy, I tell you, whoever's on that stage has to keep your attention. And sometimes well-constructed content isn't enough.
Thank you, Hussein. Thank you, Anuja, for your questions. We are almost on the verge of the time. I will quickly take a couple of feedback. One from a Toastmaster. I'd like to share the feedback for the session.
Let's hear it from Cyril. Let's see, for your information, Cyril is our past last year, right? 2020 or 2021, I guess. Humorous speech champion. He's a District 98 humorous speech champion, Cyril.
Cyril.
Hi, Cyril.
You're there?
Share your feedback.
Hi, I'm sorry. Firstly, the reason why my camera was off was because I was in the kitchen and I was cringing every time when you were saying that your cameras are off. I just heard my name being mentioned. I'm so sorry, Joe. My deepest apologies. Could you just give me a little context here? I was multitasking, but I hung on to every single moment of the training because this is probably one of the most brilliant sessions that I've attended. Were you asking me for feedback, Joe?
Yes.
Yes, sir. So I just referred that you are a past humorous speech champion of District 98. And
right.
That way I hand it over to you to share your feedback about this session.
If I need to come up with one word, it'll be wow. If I need to come up with proper speech, it would be again one word. That would be speechless.
Wow.
It's been an incredible session. The content, the delivery, and everything. I'm not sure if you remember it. You and I were there on a closed Zoom call just day before yesterday, late night your time, late night my time. Yeah, yes, and one of the topics that we threw around was shaken but not stirred, if you remember.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Right. Yeah. It's an impressive session, probably one of the best educational sessions that I've handled. And the moment I saw your name, I thought, come on, I can't miss this session at all. I'm so glad that I attended. I could go on and on. The timer will throw the clock at me. I need to be.
Don't go on and on. Don't. You're good, Cyril. You're good. Thank you, Cyril. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, Cyril, for such wonderful feedback. Any other guests that would like to share their feedback about this session?
Any of the international guests? Mary, or Martin.
Yeah, I'm from Mexico, but here it's 4 a.m. So sorry for having the hoodie.
How you doing?
I really enjoyed the speech. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin.
Oh, you can hear my rooster also.
Absolutely. Muchas gracias, Martin.
Buenos días. See you.
Thank you, Martin. With that,
not as a guest feedback, but I would just wanted to add an observation. Whoever had their video on, I could see a lot of them taking notes as like that sincere students during our school days. That is how sincerely we were taking notes. That itself is a feedback for the session, that how keenly we were looking at every single word from FURSEY. So that itself was a feedback. And as Martin said, at 4 a.m., if you are, that's like midnight for me, 4 a.m. So if you're 4 a.m., you're awake and listening to a speech, and that itself is again a feedback that how great this session was. Thank you so much, FURSEY, for making this happen. And it was just a few days back when I reached out to him, and with no hesitation, he took up, and it was just a few conversations. And the best part was he asked us to speak from the heart, but then it was more like he's speaking from the heart, and all of us were right there listening to him. Right, so it was really, really awesome. Thank you so much, FURSEY, for making this happen. As many of them has put it in the chat box and expressed one of the best, I would not call it as education session, because that kind of is termed a little kind of a session where it's more of an information download. But I would say one of the most interesting sessions in terms of a lot of takeaways for it. Even the minutest things, like right from gestures, all of us do know about it. It's basics, but then even for the basics, we had a lot of demonstration that made it even bigger and better. Thank you so much for that. Over to you, Abhilash.
Thank you, Joe. A humble gesture from us to say back full of thanks for such a wonderful session. The man in the arena, please accept this gratitude of certificate from our club. Thank you, Toastmaster Fusei.
We could all actually unmute and give a round of applause.
Thank you. I appreciated being here. Great group, great questions, great questions. And some of you had asked about connecting on social media. I put my email on there. There's also a group that we have. We've got a group on WeChat. We got a group on WhatsApp where you can rehearse your speaking if you'd like. So please feel free to find us there. Mary, or if you've got that, or Martin, if you've got that link to the WhatsApp group, I have poor technology skills, so I can never learn how to do that. But if one of you who's part of that group can just stick it in there, find us. We'll have a lot of fun. We'll have a lot of fun.
Thank you, FURSEE, for the invite. Generally, our Sundays will over around 6 p.m. But today being a special session, we are concluding the session in another few minutes. Usually our club meetings are on Sunday, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. IST, where we have our voyages. That's how we call our meetings. And mostly we'll concentrate on any country or a place where a Toastmaster of the day will take a virtual tour. And you can visit any country, which we will be doing on every week. To keep visiting our clubs. And Joe have already posted the guest group, where you get to know more information about our club meetings also. With this, we are closing this session. Thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot for joining. Recording is